Hello, good morning once again. Welcome back to our class. So today we will be having our next lesson, which is manner of articulation. But in the last video, we have talked about the places of articulation where you are tasked to retell those places of articulation in a video and upload it to any social media account you have and send me the link so that I can view it as a part of your activity. So you must be ready with our next as we are about to start. So here is your new lesson, the manners of articulation. When we say manners of articulation, this pertains to how the sounds are produced. As compared to the place of articulation, it talks about where the sounds are produced. So here, let's talk about how the sounds are produced. So when we talk about manner of articulation, this refers to the nature and type of airflow obstruction involved in the articulation of speech sounds. I hope it is clear. The manner of articulation is particularly defined by four major factors. First one, whether there is a vibration of the vocal folds, or we call it voiced and voiceless. For example, it is determined when you put your two fingers on your throat and produce the sound of a word. For example, the sound of B, B, B. When you feel there is a vibration, then it is called voiced. When you produce the sound, the same, putting your two fingers on your throat and you produce the sound of M, M. Still, there is a vibration, so it is voiced. Say, for example, produce the sound of F. We do not feel any vibration, so it is called voiceless sound. So there is one. Second one, whether there is obstruction of the airstream or at any point above the glottis. We all know that when we produce a sound and two of our oral cavities met, or for example, that the upper and the lower teeth are pressed together when we produce the sound. For example, D. It is called consonant. But when we produce the sound and our oral cavity is open, there is no two oral cavity that are closed or that are approaching together. It is called vowel. Say, for example, A, E, I, O, U. There is no two oral cavities that meet, so it is vowel. Third one is whether the airstream passes through the nasal cavity in addition to the oral cavity. There are some words or sounds which may be classified as nasal or oral. For example, if the sound came from the oral cavity, it's called oral sound. But when the sound came from the nasal cavity, it's called nasal sound. For example, A is oral since the sound came from our oral cavity. For example, is a nasal sound since we closed our oral cavity and we opened our nasal cavity. Try to pinch your nose like this and produce the sound of M. There is no production of the sound of M since you have closed your nasal cavity, meaning M is a nasal sound. And the fifth one, whether the airstream passes through the middle of the oral cavity or along the sides. Is it lateral? Meaning, the air flows through the sides of your tongue. Sa gilid-gilid ng tongue. Here. Produce the sound of L. 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 You can feel that the air passes through the sides of your tongue as the tip of the tongue presses through the tip of your gums inside. So those are the five major factors that tell the manner of articulation. So let's see one by one what are those manners of articulation. There is a chart in here. I will explain later on the place and manner of articulation. So here we will be talking about stops, about fricatives, about affricates, about nasal, about liquids, about lateral, rhotic, and glide, or sometimes we call it semi-vowel. And we also have here the manner of articulation tree. As you can see here, the manner of articulation is divided into 4. We have occlusives, fricatives, liquids, and glides. And occlusives, we have stops, we have affricates. Fricatives, we have sibilants, we have non-sibilants. Liquids, we have lateral or approximant, and the rhotic non-lateral approximant. And then of course we have glides or approximant, or yung tinatawag nating semi-vowels. And then for stops, it's divided into plosives and nasals. And here are the sounds of the words produced in each manner of articulation. So without so much ado, let's have the first. We have occlusives. When we say occlusives, occlusives require a complete closure of the speech canal, not just a restriction. For example, we have stops. In stops, we have plosives. A while ago here, in stops, we have plosives and nasal. Stops, we have plosives and nasal. For example, when we say stop, there is a complete stop of the obstruction, or there is a complete obstruction. Say for example, plosives. Plosives are called plosives because of the word explosion, explosive, as if there is an explosion when you produce the sounds. Say for example, the sound of P, P. Take note that plosive, D is a plosive since you close your two lips, the upper and lower lip, P, and there is a sudden burst as if there is an explosion. Also the sound of B, B. There is a sudden explosion. So plosives, explosives. I hope you can put in mind these words or these sounds by the word explosive, plosive. So as with the sound of T, 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 isn't it? There is an explosion. The sound of D, D. The sound of K, and the sound of G, G. Also, we have stops, which are nasal. I've told you a while ago, nasal sounds are produced in the nasal cavity, like M, M. So again, bilabial siya, M. The sound of N, N, and the sound of NG. The symbol for NG is this, N with a tail of G. So, Ng, the sound of Ng. And of course, we have affricates. What are affricates? Affricates are a combination of plosives and fricatives. When we say fricatives, this one, you can memorize or you can put in mind the word fricative when you think of friction. Friction. What do you think of? What can you think when we say the word friction? There is a rubbing of two oral cavity to produce the sound. For example, S. Another example, as if there is rubbing. There is friction. Z. And then the sound of a hard TH, Z, as in them. We also have the sound of soft TH as in thin. So that is affricate. Affricate is the combination of stops and fricatives. So there. What are examples of affricates? We have ch, the sound of ch, the sound of ch here. The symbol is T, and then as if a snake, snake-like letter. And then the sound of J. The symbol is D and a cursive Z. J, George, like George. We have church, and then we have George. So, as you can see, affricates, as I have told you a while ago, is a combination of stops and fricatives. So, when we produce the sound of ch, ch. So, there is a friction first, and then there is an explosion, plosive and fricative, ch. And then as also the sound of j. So can you determine the friction and then the sudden explosion? So that is affricate, the combination of plosive and fricatives. So let's go further. Fricatives, as I have told you a while ago, is friction, and we have here sibilants, meaning these sounds are strong and clearly audible. For example, the sound of S, the sound of SH, the snake-like sh, the sound of Z, and the sound of ZH, like S, for example, is please, and then we have choose for SH, we have zoo for the sound of Z, and we have pleasure for the sound of ZH, pleasure, garage. And also we have non-sibilants. These are fricatives which are weak and less audible, such as, I told you a while ago, the symbol for soft th is the theta symbol. Fin, the symbol of the sound of F, also letter F ang symbol niya. And then the sound of V. We have also the sound of H, the glottal sound, and the sound of hard DH, which is them. Another the sound. Okay, let's go further. After fricatives, we go to liquids. And what are liquids? Excuse me. Liquids are type of approximants which is a sound closely similar to vowels. So, for example, an example here is the sound of L. What vowel is similar to L? A, E, O, U. I don't know. But anyway, in the International Phonetic Alphabet, the vowels are not only restricted to A, E, O, U. There is A, there is A, there is E. There is short E, there is long E, which we will be tackling later on, after this. So liquids are types of approximants which is a sound closely similar to vowel. Closely similar to vowel. Different yung semi-vowel later on, because the semi-vowel is sometimes very closely related to, very closely sounded like vowels that they are interchanged with vowel sounds. It's only closely similar to vowels. For example, lateral. I have told you a while ago, lateral is produced here on lateral is produced here. How the sound is produced? The air passes through the sides of the tongue while the tongue is pressed against the alveolar ridge. Remember alveolar ridge, which we have talked about in place of articulation. So lateral. Produce sound of L. L with your mirror and see that these sides are open. L. That's lateral. And we also have tap. We have tap. When we say tap is sometimes most of the times likened to trill, because tap and trill are somehow the same, but they are different in here. For example, tap is, in some languages,